Okay, good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to talk to you about MARTEL. MARTEL is part of the UniMET programs. As you know, the language of the CE is English, and it's required to have effective communication in English on board ships. But the problem is there are no international standards for or tests recognised in English. So, why should we have an international standard for maritime English? It's important for safe navigation because it's important to have proper communication on board ships, so it makes safe navigation. Most of the collisions happen due to human error. Fair communication or misunderstanding things increase the risks of navigation. A means for effective communication should be provided. Effective means to have a clear command of communication language. Again, why should we have an international standard for maritime English? Well, there's a lack of marine language standards for certification at the international level. There's a lack of language standards for representative levels of responsibility on board ship. So it seems difficult to comprehend why there isn't. Standard marine communication phrases deal with only part of the overall professional competences of the seafarer. What about the communications between officers on a social as well as a professional level as well? The only confirmation of maritime competencies concerning the language is given with a professional license, an officer in charge of navigation or watch certificate. And by a review of the arguments from the recent IMO meetings at the MSC, then it is identified that there is a compelling need to promote a high level of working maritime English language skills. And it is from an MSC meeting that we developed the standards for maritime English. Maritime competence of English should be understood as the ability of communicating effectively in English while running the ship at a predetermined level of competency. These are some of the research findings justifying a need for maritime English standards. According to Valerie Shaw, a prominent academic, the STCW code does not provide indications of English proficiency levels to be achieved. The assessment systems should test the English skills and not the maritime knowledge of the seafarer. It should be vocational in nature and unlike conventional testing systems. It should be skills-based with not too much reliance on grammar. On board ship, you should be able to have a communicative approach. It shouldn't be all about grammar. There is a strong feeling that English should be taught in the context of maritime English, as Leginsky has stated in his paper. There is no language called maritime English, and a competency in English language is only obtained if developed in the context of the English language. Maritime English is the vocational element of the English language for seafarers and should be treated as any other English for establishment purposes. This concept agrees with the findings of arguments presented by Leginsky. Maritime English training at NETs also lack the following. Time allocated to maritime English is very limited and it's very variable between different institutions. Exam systems evaluating spoken English, there isn't any when it comes to maritime related. And there is a need for a standardised qualification for maritime English trainees and trainers. This led us to the MARTEL test of English language. We've learned some of the ideas from the aviation industry, and using these ideas we've developed the maritime English test. All pilots on board planes have to have pass an English language test based on the aviation industry's so forth. So, MARTEL needs one. The maritime industry needs one for all these guys navigating the ships. So, we came up with the idea of the MARTEL, the International Standard for Maritime English. It came about from a Leonardo project involving a large number of partners across Europe. This enabled there to be a development of a number of tests and associated materials, study guidelines to enable the students to prepare for the tests. These were for cadets. There's a test for cadets, there's a test for officers, and there's a test for senior officers. When it comes to the officer level and senior officer level, there are actually two separate tests. So we have it for the deck and we have it for the engineer, because they have different responsibilities. And they have different needs. The phase 1 test is excellent for when a student is going to the university for the first time, going to a maritime college for the first time. It enables you to assess their level of English before they start the course, maybe in the first week. You're then able to determine, okay, whether that student should go straight into the university program and start their degree, or whether they need to have a 1-year course in English or something in between, maybe additional English in their first year of their degree program. And this test enables this to happen. I know individual institutions have their own tests, but at the end of the day, we try and have a standard approach, so therefore there is some continuity and there's some sort of coherence in the industry in terms of what the English level of these seafarers is. We had to take a lot of time in terms of structuring the tests. We brought people from the seafarers, they provided their input, and we had the language specialists. And together, we were able to then look at the types of things that these people will need to be aware of, what skills they need to have. This is just an example. When they come to the university entrance, then this is the type of breakdown of the skill sets and the skills that we assess them. When it came to the phase 2, which is the deck and engineers of officers of watch, of junior ranks, then we had to look at the breakdown of those. And a navigator, for example, will be speaking more. So therefore there was a need for those skills and more questions in that area. When it comes to the engine, they will be probably reading more. So therefore they will be given more exercises in the test related to readings. And similarly, we did similar things when it comes to the senior officers. We looked at their job and how they communicate in English. Again, we had a similar breakdown. So these were the partners. So we had some, quite major players. We had Glasgow College of Nautical Studies, and I'm sure many of you based in the UK will be aware of that institution. We had Strathclyde University, had a lot of research, so they were able to back up the development of the tests, as well as a number of the other partners who are around the table with us today. Once we developed this test, we realised, actually, we need more materials. We need more features, functionality. So we asked the European Union to provide us with additional funding to develop some new features. So we first of all realised that we should do a one-to-one examination to have a way of enhancing the testing of the speaking through an examiner. We forgot all about the ratings. So we have to think about the ratings. These guys are the most important. We need to make sure they communicate, because the officers usually do communicate better than the ratings. We had to have teachers' guidelines to enable then that teachers have the right materials to teach the youngsters and the officers and so forth. And also, we had a mobile phone application, which is very novel. So therefore, there is an application where the students and officers can actually practice while they're singing, or practice wherever they want. There's this mobile application they can use. And of course, we have to have a test center quality control system. And this is something that, the type of thing Himanshu has mentioned, is this is the type of thing we need to make sure that the control is fully controlled and is fully assured. And again, we had a number of partners, and a number of the partners are here today. And one of them, for example, is World Maritime University, and they have prominent experts in maritime English. And similarly, other partners have different skills. For example, the Bulgarian partner are experts in language construction and evaluation. So these guys had some experience in developing the NATO English test. And so we were able to have different people. We had the seafarers, we had the quality control people, and we had the language specialists. And so we were able then to have a strong test system. So thank you for letting me explain to you about the need for standards for maritime English. I think this will be a topic of discussion in the workshop session this afternoon. So we'd like to get your comments about the need for maritime English as well as other things. So maybe we can get your input as well. Thank you very much.